Hello and welcome to Outside Views. Today we're addressing a topic that has left a lasting impact on the United Kingdom's economy and international standing. The economic fallout of Brexit and the urgent need for the government to rebuild closer ties with the European Union. It's been over 4 years since the UK officially left the EU, and the consequences of that decision have become painfully clear. Just last week, Andrew Bailey, the governor of the Bank of England, spoke candidly about the economic effects of Brexit during a speech at Mansion House in London. Bailey, while careful to avoid taking a political stance, made it clear that the consequences of the UK's changing relationship with the EU are significant. He pointed out that Brexit has weighed on the level of potential supply, essentially limiting the UK's economy's capacity to grow. He also highlighted the disproportionate impact Brexit has had on goods trade, a finding that aligns with research from economists and trade analysts. And to put this into perspective, let's examine the hard numbers. According to Aston University Business School, the value of UK goods exported to the EU is 27% lower than it would have been without Brexit. Imports from the EU are down by an even steeper 32%. And these figures reflect a profound and ongoing shift in Britain's trade dynamics, and they illustrate how Brexit has disrupted the economic equilibrium that once existed. One of the most striking findings from Aston University's research is the decline in the variety of goods exported to the EU. Before Brexit, British manufacturers exported a wide range of products to EU countries. Now, they are sending 1,645 fewer types of goods to the bloc. This reduction isn't just a statistic. It represents businesses that have scaled back operations, jobs that have been lost, and opportunities that have just disappeared. For many manufacturers, the added costs and bureaucracy of trading with the EU have proven too burdensome. Tariffs, customs checks, and regulatory barriers have turned what was once a seamless process into a logistical nightmare. And some businesses have simply stopped exporting to the EU altogether, choosing instead to focus on domestic markets or look for opportunities elsewhere. But here's the problem. Those opportunities are limited. While the UK has signed trade agreements with countries like Australia, New Zealand, and Japan, these deals do not come close to compensating for the loss of frictionless trade with the EU. The EU remains the UK's largest trading partner, accounting for nearly half of all imports and exports. Replacing that level of trade is not just difficult, it's nearly impossible. And the impact of Brexit is not confined to businesses. Consumers are also feeling the effects, often in ways they might not immediately recognize. The increased costs of importing goods from the EU have led to higher prices on store shelves. Supply chain disruptions have resulted in delays and shortages affecting everything from food to electronics. And for the average household, these changes translate to a higher cost of living and reduced purchasing power. Andrew Bailey also touched on the broader geopolitical context, noting that the world economy is becoming more fragmented. This fragmentation is being driven by a combination of factors, including the COVID-19 pandemic, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and the rise of protectionist trade policies in countries like the United States. For the UK, this means that the window for rebuilding trade relationships is narrowing. And the question is, how should the government respond? Bailey suggested that the UK should welcome opportunities to rebuild relations with the EU while respecting the decisions of the British people. This is a pragmatic approach, one that acknowledges the realities of Brexit without dismissing its challenges. But rebuilding relations with the EU requires more than just rhetoric. It demands concrete actions. One area where progress could be made is regulatory alignment. By aligning its standards with those of the EU, the UK could reduce trade barriers and restore some of the confidence that has been lost among businesses. This wouldn't mean rejoining the single market or the customs union, but it would create a framework for smoother trade and cooperation. Another potential area of collaboration is research and development. The UK has a long history of participating in EU research programs, which have been instrumental in driving innovation and economic growth. Re-engaging with more of these programs could provide a much-needed boost to the UK's tech and science sectors. Critics of closer ties with the EU often argue that Brexit was about sovereignty and that aligning with EU policies undermines that principle. But sovereignty is not just about making decisions independently. It's about making decisions that serve the national interest. And right now, the national interest demands a more collaborative relationship with the rest of Europe. Recent efforts by the Labour government to improve trade relations with the EU suggest that there is an appetite for change. Prime Minister Keir Starmer has emphasized the importance of a reset in UK-EU relations, focusing on areas of mutual benefit such as energy cooperation, defence and trade facilitation. While Starmer has ruled out rejoining the EU or its major institutions, his government's willingness to engage in constructive dialogue would be a step in the right direction if they are serious about it. However, this alone may not be enough. The economic damage caused by Brexit is deep and wide-ranging, and it will take bold, ambitious policies to address it. For example, re-establishing free movement for certain categories of workers could help alleviate labor shortages in key sectors like healthcare and agriculture. Similarly, creating a customs partnership with the EU could streamline trade and reduce costs for businesses on both sides of the channel. The stakes couldn't be higher. The longer the government waits to take action, the more entrenched the economic challenges will become. Businesses need clarity and stability to plan for the future, and consumers need relief from rising prices and supply chain disruptions. Rebuilding relations with the EU is not about revisiting the past, it's about securing the future. As Andrew Bailey pointed out, the impact of Brexit is not happening in isolation. Geopolitical shocks such as the war in Ukraine and tensions with China are creating new challenges for the global economy. And in this context, the UK cannot afford to remain isolated. Re-establishing strong ties with Europe is not just an economic necessity, it's a strategic imperative. The path forward will not be easy, but it is clear. The government must move beyond the rhetoric of Brexit and focus on pragmatic solutions that address the challenges at hand. And this means putting ideology aside and prioritizing what is best for the economy, the best for businesses, and, of course, the best for the British people. So thank you for watching Outside Views again. And if you found this analysis helpful, please like, subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments below. And we will continue to explore Brexit's unfolding story and its impact on the UK and beyond. And if you want to see another video, the next one is right here in the end screen.